Good afternoon or good morning if you're on the West Coast. I'm Connor Bryan, CEO of Beanstocks, and thanks for joining us. So this week we're going to cover some topics that I think are top of mind for lots and lots of people. And Kevin O'Leary will be joining me some part midway through the conversation here. So first topic that you would have seen on the invitation was the stimulus, all about the stimulus check. What should you know, or your friends and families, what should they know? And you can tell them what you think might be helpful to them. Here's what I think people need to know. Direct deposit will be sent out starting March 22nd for people that actually had the banking information in their tax filings, most recent ones that they submitted to the federal government. People who didn't do that can expect to see physical checks mailed out beginning March 29th. And that's the $1,400 check. Here's another thing that's interesting. The $1,400, many people may know this already, but some may not, will go out to people whose income on that filing was under $75,000. And then if you make more than 75, but not more than 80, you'll get a partial amount, not 1,400, but some partial amount. And if you make more than 80, you get zero. Now, if you have kids or dependents, you'll get $1,400 per dependent, in addition to whatever you get per the table above that. And this amount applies to people who make under $112,500. So now think about this. You've got this income level, and maybe you filed 2019, but you haven't filed 2020 yet. So take a look at your filing, what it would be for 2020, and if it's going to be lower than for 2019 and put you into a better stimulus check bracket, then you might want to consider hurrying up and filing for 2020. Of course, leave that tax work to yourself or your tax advisor if you have one, but just information that you might find useful in your planning purposes.
Hello.
So, hey, Kevin, we just started talking about the stimulus check, and if our producer could put the slide back up just so Kevin sees what I was just talking about. I was just explaining to people, Kevin, the timing of the stimulus check. You know, a lot of individuals here who may make more money than this level and they won't see a check. Some make a level that's below these levels and will get a check. People who have a dependent or more than one, as long as they make under $112,000 a year, $112,500, they get a check for that dependent or dependents, plural. So just talked about the timing, talked about their tax filing strategies. Some people may want to file for 2020 if their income level would be lower than 2019, and they might get a better stimulus check. The other thing you could do is put your banking information in if you did not put it in last year. Put it in this year, you might get the check a week sooner as a direct deposit. So, Kevin, that's just talking about the amount of dollars. And I think it's something like $400 billion that will be going direct to people, many of whom need it. Some need it more than others. And one of the topics here, Kevin, is what to do with the money. And I guess the first thing is if people actually need it to buy food and pay rent, well, that's top of the list. But let's talk about some other ideas, because I think, Kevin, with the last round of stimulus checks, a lot of that money ended up getting invested. There's a survey that went out by one of the big banks that said 40% of respondents said that they would invest some or all of the money in the stock market. So let's just kick around ideas. What would your priorities or suggestions be, Kevin, to people who are of this called moderate income level, not the rich people, moderate income level, get this check? What are the priorities?
Well, assuming your basic needs are covered, and for many people they will be, because this is an extraordinary once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that, you know, the government's giving money to people that already have jobs. Depends, obviously, if you have the needs for food, I get it, rent, I get it, but anything else, this is an opportunity to invest it for your future and let it compound, you know, the rates that markets have traditionally given between 6 and 8% annually. And so when you get basically money falling out of the sky, don't squander it, because the immediate, temptation is to buy something that ultimately you don't need. I mean, it feels great to be able to do that, and we've all gone through this horrific pandemic, but there's always an opportunity to take at least some of this check and put it away for your future. I'm talking about, you know, for when you turn 65 or you know, when you decide to retire, you can make this money work for you, not just this year, for the rest of your life. And so the way to do that, and obviously that's why I got involved in Beanstocks is to make it easy so that you can just take this, put it into Beanstocks and put it into an investment account. That's what Beanstocks does so well. It makes it really easy to put it into the market, gives you a diversified portfolio, and lets you let this money go to work for you.
That's, I think, great input for lots and lots of people. Let's go to the producer, put on the second slide. You'll see what the respondents to a survey done by this large bank actually said. And so top bar there shows savings and investing. We combined the two because we want to talk about this combined. And then a lot of people said, well, food, housing, credit card debt. And that's one, Kevin, you can come back and talk about for sure. Home improvement. And then the last one's kind of a catch-all category of healthcare and other. It adds up to a lot more than 100%. Because people, I guess, could answer more than just one topic. So, Kevin, we've got savings and investing. We lumped them together, but you'll see 34% said saving and 6% said investing. So share with people your views of really what might be a better mix than having more in savings and investing. I think you would probably say should be the other way around.
I would, because saving is not investing. Putting money into a savings account, well, it's important to have some cash, particularly emergency cash, because you never know when you're going to need it. But that's not investing. That does not provide the returns that the market does when you invest in companies that make profits, pay dividends, et cetera. Because bank accounts pay less than 1% interest today, when the market can achieve 8% some years. So you really have to think of those two things as being different. I'd much prefer that, if you had your opportunity to talk about 34%, that really maybe you save 10% of that, and the rest goes into investing, and you can use the Beanstocks app to do that. That was the whole idea of Beanstocks, to make it incredibly simple, to make a decision like that, which is always the hardest decision you have to make. But try and put at least $100 a week aside and put it into Beanstocks so it can be put into the market and provide growth for you over a long period of time. And you can watch it every day, do what it does.
I'm going to ask you a question that's a tiny bit off topic between investing and savings, because we're going to get back to that topic in a second. But the chart that we had up, no need for it to be back up again, but it showed debt reduction, credit card reduction. And I know you have views on credit cards, both the expensive interest rates on some people that they get stuck with. And the other piece of advice that was so novel when you said it, I now remember it forever, is that your advice on people needing to have 2 credit cards. So just the 2 credit-related comments, just tell people, how to think about reducing their credit card debt versus investing. And then second, why would you need 2 credit cards?
Well, the reason you need 2 credit cards is, one, for your online purchases that you put a limit on. Let's say you put a limit of $2,500 on it. And the other one never gets typed into the internet. And that's something that may have different criteria for, so that you use when you go shopping for other things at higher prices. The reason you want a limit on your internet credit card is that when there is fraud, they can't expose you to more than, let's say, $2,500. And that's a strategy I've recommended for years. That's the card that gets the profile in all your online accounts. The other card you keep to yourself, and you use it occasionally when you need to buy something more expensive. Now, the thing about credit cards to learn and to know, and I learned this the hard way years ago, you really need to pay off that balance every month. And so, because the amount of interest you're charged is often double digits, and it's very hard to get returns like that. So if you're being charged 17 to 21% interest, that's horrific. Very hard to catch up with that, and that can happen to you. So I always say to people, live within your means. Obviously, credit cards are helpful because they help you build a credit record, assuming you can pay off the balance every month. And I told my own family, my kids, is, look, spend $75 a month on the card, pay it off every month so you can start to build a credit score. That credit score is attached to your name for the rest of your life and lets you buy homes and cars and things that you may need when you start a family. But the point is, society puts one on you, and the way to do it and keep it high is making sure that you pay off your credit card. But build into your metrics of every month and how you live to put aside at least $100 a week to invest in your own future. That's the funniest thing, forcing yourself into a mentality of doing it. But remember, you're investing in you. You're not giving the money to somebody else. You're taking $100 out of your life each week and investing in you, your future, your retirement. That's the best way to look at it. That way you can really keep up the whole idea of building it into your DNA of saying, this week I've got to find that $100, a side hustle, walk a dog, or whatever it is, just invest in myself. That's the key.
Yeah, investing in yourself and your future. And it is a hard discipline, but it's amazing. You know, the average American income is $60,000 or so, depending on which data source you look at. So most people are making 40, 60, 80,000 or more because the average is 60. And after tax, maybe it's 50 or something. But putting $100 a week away is 10% of your after tax income if you're making 50 a year. And the thing is, people have habits. They're used to spending $5 a day on a latte. They're used to spending $10 a day on a sandwich at the restaurant. They're used to spending money on all kinds of stuff. I think they need to get used to spending $100 a week in their investment account. It's not spent, it's invested. What would be your suggestion to people, Kevin, on how to break those habits that spend all the money they get every week?
It's really thinking about yourself. You're investing in yourself. The way to get into that habit is remembering that you are investing in you. You're not giving it away. I keep repeating it because that mindset is the hardest challenge to get started on. I mean, it really is built into everybody's DNA because society almost teaches us to spend our money. And some people spend more than they make, which is a horrible outcome in the end because we're a consumer society. But just think of that $100 as your money being kept for you, invested, not saving it, investing it so that you can achieve those 6 to 8% returns annually. And that's how you build a nest egg of over $1 million for when you're later in life looking at retirement. And so it really is that discipline. It's really that change in how you live your life. And it becomes something that you think is so important that it's the top of your list each week. Maybe you make it on a Thursday or a Wednesday. I've got to put that $100 aside. Once you get in the rhythm of it, though, it becomes very easy.
Well, actually, Beanstox makes the rhythm of it incredibly easy because you can set it up in the app, decide how much your amount is per week or per month, and it'll happen automatically. It'll get invested for you automatically and get you on that path towards the retirement wealth that you probably look forward to. Kevin's math, I'll just mention to people, you know, it works. It does work that way. I'm going to show you a chart in a second. If you invested $100 a week through your entire career and invested at the rate of returns that the markets have been generating for investors decade after decade after decade, it would grow to $1.5 million. $100 a week over 40 years invested at that 7-8% would grow to $1.5 million. So let's go to this slide here. Many people, Kevin, ask this question: why do stock markets go up in the long run? And this is the most powerful, let's call it, relationship between what companies do and what stock prices do that seems to be very closely related over the very long term. This is 30 years. The very dark bar shows you the price of stocks. The blue bar shows you the earnings that those companies make. So think it for people here that it's the profit of all of these companies. You know, whether you're spending money as a consumer at Starbucks, McDonald's, Walmart, Apple, anything, all that money goes into revenue, company pays its cost, gets left with profit. And the profit is what the blue line is for all of these companies that are in the 500 largest companies in the US over that period of time. And as you see, the blue line grows. And with it, the price of all of those stocks grows in a very similar pattern. And the price of those stocks essentially reflects the kind of investment return you get if your money is invested in a way where you own those stocks. How do you do it? Well, Beanstox can take care of that for you, obviously. Or you can go and do it yourself and pick 500 stocks, or you can go and pick some other way of owning those 500 stocks. There are lots and lots of ways to do it. Beanstox obviously is designed to automate it for you. So Kevin, just talk a little bit about, you've owned so many businesses. Just talk about how you think about the growth of the value of all kinds of businesses, many that you own, as well as the very large companies where you own a piece of them through the kind of exchange traded funds that we use in Beanstox. So value these businesses in line with profit growth. Just explain that to people. So
successful companies continue to grow because there's an ever-growing demand for their goods or services. And, you know, you think about companies, and Apple was a good example mentioned earlier, started in Steve Jobs' garage. And as the demand for the product grew, so did the company. It became one of the largest companies in the world because the demand for the product is that large. And so you want to try and find a whole bunch of companies like that solve problems for people, that grow and become bigger and bigger, and then start distributing their profits back to you in the form of dividends. That's what a great investment is. So then you reinvest those dividends and you get more shares in that company or other companies, and you build your nest egg that way. And that's what Beanstox does. It does use exchange traded funds, and they're very attractive. They're very transparent. They're very tax efficient, and they hold many, many different stocks in one basket. That's why they're so popular. So we've designed Beanstock to help you do that, make it a very simple, seamless transaction. So you send that $100 in a week or more if you can, and then it gets put into the market and you can watch it perform. The markets go up and down, but as you saw in that chart, in the long run, it's been about 6 to 8% up a year on average, which is a great return if it's being compounded. It lets you, if you put $100 a week aside, have well over $1 million when you turn 65.
Let's use that chart one more time there, producer, please. Just want to show something. So that mathematically works out to a 7% annual average return over that period of time. That was what Kevin was talking about, 6 to 8%. And it's not the same every year. It changes from day to day, depending on stocks being popular to own more or less, and it averages out over time to that kind of return level of 7%. And think about what we said earlier in the call here, talking about savings versus investing. If you're saving and putting it in a checking account or even a savings account, you're getting zero or close to zero interest, close to zero growth of your money, close to zero payment from the bank for you having put your money there. Whereas if you buy stocks or a diversified selection of stocks, diversified selection of ETFs that own stocks, which is exactly what Beanstock does, you enjoy the growth that's going to look more like the growth of that's represented in this chart, with some variability. It's not going to be 7% every year, but that's the reason you invest for the long term, and you let these companies that you own tiny pieces of, you let them gradually grow. Starbucks opens more restaurants, Amazon sells more stuff, Apple sells more phones and more services, and you benefit from all of that growth from all of those companies because you own a tiny little piece of every single one of the companies in each ETF that you would own through Beanstox if you use Beanstox. All right, great. So that's a little bit on investing. I think every week, Kevin, we're going to have another topic on investing to try to share with people a little bit of info and understanding of investing. Some of it's going to be too simple for some parts of the audience, and some of it we hope will be of value to every member of the audience. So one thing about $100 a week or just making money, most people have a job. It's whether it's 9 to 5, 5 days a week or something else. Almost everybody has a little bit of spare time that they use for whatever it is, for social media, spinning through their phone, looking at stuff, talking to friends, watching television, sports, all kinds of great uses of time. But most people could find a little bit more time to make a bit more money if they knew what to do. Last call, we just talked very briefly of this idea of the side gig, the income hustle, whatever term people like to use for it. And so today we want to drill into one that really is very specific to what's going on in the world today. It's online tutoring. And most people on this call probably know some subject pretty well. It could be math, it could be a language, it could be web design. Let's throw up the slide here with some of these ideas and what the math actually is for people. And let's say the goal is to put away at least $100 a week extra by making a bit more money because your budget's already tight. So what can you make? The amount of money you can make here is something like $11 to $20 an hour or more, depending on the market you're in, depending on the service you're providing. Some tutors get paid up to $40 an hour. What if you found 10 hours a week? That's 2 hours a day for 5 days a week. Maybe it's too much, but let's just run the math. That would work out to $110 to $200 a week. And if you only have 5 hours a week, well, let's hope you can find a service that is tutoring or other that gets you the $20, 5 times that being the $100 that we're talking about being the number we're suggesting people consider putting into their investment account. Then the next thing is, what can you teach? It's math, it's language. You speak Spanish, you speak French, you speak something else. You speak English. There are people that pay to learn English. So that's a language that almost everybody on this call could probably teach people. Web design or something in the arts. Cooking. Kevin, you're a chef. Maybe, Kevin, you could do some side hustle cooking courses. And then the final thing is, how do you start? Well, choose your topic, your subject. Choose something that you're interested in teaching people that you probably are good at. Choose your audience. Is this for young kids, high school kids? Is it for young adults? Is it for older adults? There's some audience that you're going to feel comfortable talking to. And then the next thing is start promoting. You can put up a website, use GoDaddy or some other service for almost zero money. You can do that if you want. Promote through tutor.com, through Chegg. There's actually websites for all kinds of different services like this. Just spend a few minutes online, you'll find them. So Kevin, let's just imagine you're trying to coach somebody who wants to make that extra $100 or $200, and you're very good at coaching management teams of Shark Tank companies and helping them get on with growth. What are the kinds of things in today's environment that you think would enable somebody to become a successful online tutor? What are some of the building blocks of how to develop their service, how to promote their service, and then how to charge for it and provide it?
The best way to do it is to set up a basic website that can be done very inexpensively now. You mentioned GoDaddy. There's other services as well. You can use any of the apps that are out there to design it yourself with basically picture of you, detail of your service, your price, etc. And then what you do is you advertise on a geo-locked basis on Facebook. In other words, there's no point if you're tutoring in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or in Amarillo, Texas, to be advertising your services in New York City. That makes no sense, because people that are going to be tutored by you probably live in your neighborhood. So you want to be very local and specific, and you can do that kind of advertising with Facebook. So the people, you do these ads and you determine how many people engage you. You determine how much your spend should be, because customer acquisition is really what you want, and you want to do it as inexpensively as you can. So after you get paid your tutoring, because when people start getting tutoring, they often stick with you if you're good at it. So they become renewable resources to you in terms of making money each week. And sometimes it can last for the whole school season. It's a very good thing. And you can decide how many students you want. But parents want to basically talk to you first, find out why it is that you're good at what you do in tutoring. But it's a fantastic side hustle if it's math and reading, because math and reading scores are what are used to advance students through school. So you focus on those two first. And you can make this something that you earn well more than $100 a week. And then, of course, invest that. Obviously, I think you should use Beanstox, but the key is to earn it in the first place. And that's the best way to do it. If your salary is such that you're spending your every dollar you're making just to keep things in line, I understand that. But you've got to find a way to invest $100 a week, and tutoring is one way to do it.
What you said that I found really, I hadn't thought of, is people can use Facebook very, very targeted way to market within their own zip code, and I guess get a very cost-effective way to reach your audience. Choose your words right. Have your website. That's, I think Kevin makes a point there. That's where the credibility comes from. Show people who you are, and it doesn't have to be fancy. It could even be a single page with contact information. So encourage people to think about their way of tutoring, if they want to be tutoring, or share that idea with other people if you like. We will be every week, I think, for the next little while, talking about a different income hustle, side gig, whatever the preferred term is, and to share with people ideas on that topic as well. So that wraps us up for today. We'll just go to the final slide here, show people what the app looks like today. Kevin, you'll see yourself on the screen there.
Very attractive, very attractive.
Fantastic first screen there. And the slogan, really, the tagline, seriously simple investing. And so that it's for people who want an automated process. They're busy. They don't want to pick stocks. They don't want to pick ETFs. They don't want to do that stuff. They want to automate it. That's what Beanstox does. It automates it for you based on your personal financial information you put into it. And it shows you exactly what your money is invested in. So we would encourage you to take a look at it. If you have any comments or questions, we invite you to send your comments and questions to customer support at Beanstox. And we look forward to talking to you all again in the next couple of weeks. Thanks very much. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.